What's up guys, Cornered here. Today we're going to be learning about how to configure a DHCP server and exactly what it is. So in order for a computer to be able to communicate on a network, you need a bunch of IP addresses. And IP addresses are really important because without them you can't really be able to communicate. Not going into too many technical details on it, computers really need it because they do something called a ARP, which is Address Resolution Protocol, which basically makes itself aware of MAC addresses to IP addresses. Each computer has a different MAC address, and it needs to be able to actually provide itself with an IP address, and other computers need to know its IP address. So without going into too many technical details, understand that each computer needs an IP address, and each computer can be on a different network with a different IP address assigned to it manually, and I'll show you guys right here how to assign a manual IP address, or configured statically, configured statically, which is what we're doing here, or dynamically, which is required by the use of a server called a DHCP server. So dynamic host configuration protocol. So as you see right here, I have to configure a DHCP server. In order to configure a DHCP server, your first address needs to be a static IP address. And as you can see right here, this is my DHCP IP address, 2.2. Right now, if you've watched my other video on how to set up a router, you need a default gateway as well if you want it to have a router on it. Right now we're going to do it without a router, and as much as I really want to combine both routing and DHCP, I think this should be done in a separate video. So right now we're only looking at how to set up a DHCP server. So we're going to hit OK. And the most important thing to note is that you need an IP address for this server right here with the DHCP. And also understand that, and really you do need to have some understanding of some basic networking to do this, but understand that in a Class C network, which is this case, you can have up to 254 hosts serving on your network technically, but your obviously your default gateway counts as one, and your DNS counts as one. So I mean, in reality, it's 252 to be honest with you. But anyways, without getting too technical here, to set up a DHCP server is actually relatively easy. All you have to do is you have to go right here, and you have to go on the server manager, right click, and hit add roles. Then you hit next, and then you hit a DHCP server. Now I highly suggest reading about this, but understand that this is a really easy to use guide on this. So I've got this right here. It sees my static IP address, which is a requirement, by the way. You have to have a static IP address because obviously you don't need your own IP address changing. Now, for those of you who are setting it up, make sure that you turn everything off as far as if you have a wireless router, and you have to push. If you have a wireless router, make sure your DHCP server is the same IP that you set for your DHCP server. So I'm going to hit next. Understand that this stuff that I'm doing is kind of important. So a scope is the range of possible IP addresses for the network. That means how many IP addresses can I have maximum if I want to start with. So for example, I'm going to call this scope A. So my starting IP address is going to be 192.168.2.1. Actually, I want 2.2 because I've got a router. And I want my end IP address to be 192.168.2.254. And now that I have that, that means that my IP addresses, and I could say my default gateway as well, which at this point we won't configure, and we hit next. So we want to disable DHCP v6, don't worry about that yet. Hit install, and I'm going to show you guys how it works. So right now I am on VMnet 2, or on the same switch that I would have been programmed to, or if you're on your wireless. And now it said there's an error with Windows updates, but that's okay. So what you want to do is you want to go to XP, or whatever machine you have, and you, as I can see already, it's configured itself with a DHCP. So as you can see here, if I go into the properties, I have obtained an IP address automatically. If I go into support and details, as you can see, it gave me a 2.3. So if I even go into my roles here, I have a DHCP server here, and I go into IPv4, and I see that my address pool has a 2.3, and if I look at my leases, I can see the name of my computer, XP Left, which is right there. So now that in this case, I'm on a different switch here. I'm going to go ahead and switch it to VMnet 2, so that I'm on the same switch as DHCPA, which gives out the addresses. Now, watch what happens when I hit OK. It says the network cable is unplugged. I have to activate it. And once it activates, it gets an IP address right now of 0.0, but it's going to be getting an IP address from DHCPA. And as you can see here, it got a 192.168.2.4. Now, obviously, if I refresh this too, I'll see 2.4, XP left and XP right. Obviously, there are a lot more settings to configure on this, but this is really, really basic way of starting off and doing this. For example, IP addresses lease, meaning that they run out of their IP address on the computer itself. You can change that. So when it leases, you can go ahead and change the specific settings of that. So if I wanted to, I could go into properties. Oops, sorry. I could go into the properties of the scope and change my lease for each client to be 8 days, 0 minutes. So for example, if I wanted an IP address to keep renewing itself every 1 minute, it will do that. And you can test this with Wireshark and see that it keeps renewing itself after every minute. There are other things to configure, such as your default gateway and your DNS, if you have DNS configured, as far as that's concerned. But there's quite a bit you can do with this, but this is really just a basic video on setting up DHCP server. The next video that I have, we will be going over setting up, as you got to watch the other video on a router, but we will be going over setting up a DHCP with a router across a different network and assigning its IP address. So that's pretty much it for the video. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you like these sort of videos, I'm trying to aim them to people who are kind of new on this, but understand that you have to learn the theory before you really dive in. But this is just a basic way of looking at it. So thank you guys again for watching this video. Definitely like it if you like it. I'm interested in some feedback, so give some comments. Positive or negative, I'll take them and do what I can with them to make this video hopefully better, my videos. So thank you guys for watching this video, and definitely stay tuned for more videos.